Greetings. Today, on May the 17th, 2025, the advisory group of experts has gathered to conduct an interview with the candidate for the position of Judge of Constitutional Court of Ukraine, Petro Saliuk. In particular, all members of the AG are present. AG Secretary Ms. Marina Konner, member of AG Hanna Sukotska, members of AGE Alish, Zalar, Yaroslav Romaniuk, and Vasil Shakun, and also me, head of the AGE, Oksana Vasilchenko. Also present during the interview are deputy members of the AGE, Thomas Griffith and Marek Zubik. Let me mention that we are working in a shelter, so in the event of an air raid alert, the interview will continue. I would also like to remind you that the interview is being recorded and broadcasted live on AGE resources and the Constitutional Court of Ukraine website. I draw the attention of AGE members and the candidate to the restrictions of the use of sensitive data and information with limited access. And if necessary, the AGE will limit the broadcast for this time. And we are ready to begin, so I pass the floor to Secretary of AGE, Marina Konner, for short representation, presenting the candidate and reminding the regulations.
Thank you. Greetings, dear colleagues, and to everyone who is watching us this afternoon. As our chair has already said, the advisory group of experts will now interview the candidate, Petro Saliuk. Let me remind you that the interview is a mandatory stage of evaluating candidates as part of assessing their compliance with the criterion of high moral qualities. One interview takes approximately 1 hour, and the time limit for answering questions is up to 3 minutes. Traditionally, we ask all candidates to be concise, to answer the questions that are posed clearly, unambiguously, and to the point. At the end of the interview, the candidate can make a short closing statement up to 5 minutes. I would also like to note that during the processing of materials about the candidate, the advisory group of experts sent him questions for written explanations, so the candidate had the opportunity to prepare and provide answers. So now we have with us a candidate for the position of Judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, Petro Saliuk. He is a judge of the District Administrative Court. He carried out combat missions in the anti-terrorist operations zone in Donetsk and Luhansk regions in 2015 and also took part in combat actions in 2022. For this, he received state and departmental awards. Since January 3rd, 2025, he has also been working part-time as acting associate professor at the Department of Constitutional, Administrative, and Financial Law at the Leonid Yuskov Khmelnytsky University of Management and Law. Do you have anything that you wish to add to the introduction that I just made?
No, thank you.
Okay, so colleagues, we will now begin with the questioning.
So, Mr. Petro, the advisory group of experts had several questions about sources of income and property. In particular, as the advisory group of experts discovered, there have been cases, repeated cases, of loans from Erlikon private enterprise. In particular, from Erlikon, where the owner and the director, they have been your wife and the wife's father, and during the previous rounds of interviews, you confirmed that starting from 2002 to 2009, your wife was the founder and the owner. Then you worked at that enterprise. The father-in-law was the owner and director for a certain period of time. So why did you take the numerous loans from that enterprise? you and your relatives took those loans? Thank you for this question. I already answered that in my explanation, but let me reiterate that I received those loans in order to buy my first car. That was registered on my wife, as I indicated in my explanation. And also, my wife also got a loan when we were buying the second car, and we lacked some funds there. And my in-laws received a loan because they were selling their cars, Toyota, Nissan, which we inherited then from them. Also, they did repair in the apartment. And after the year 2000, they started building a house. And since the enterprise belonged to my father-in-law, and his enterprise, he took that loan. And if you send your queries, maybe you know that the company has no financial issues. The loans were repaid. That was non-interest, zero interest loan. So why go to a bank? Because we could borrow from ourselves. So these numerous loans did not affect the economic situation of the company. No, not at all. And now it is functional, the company. It was sold out by us before the father-in-law died. He said that his deputy was going to continue managing the company. Since us, me and my wife, we do not have the right to conduct business activities, so it was sold for the formal cost of the statutory capital. The company has no problems with the tax administration, and as far as I know, this is one of the best taxpayers. But now that's not the issue. Yeah, I mean, they keep paying taxes and the loans are repaid. Okay, let's go back to the period where you took those loans. So when and with which funds did you repay? I repaid from my salary, as I mentioned. Also, me and my wife, we had some savings before I took the position of judge, not to have the debts and any issues repaying those debts. There we decided to repay them early. So we repaid our part of those loans, and part was repaid by the mother, and the rest was covered by the in-laws. They repaid most of that, 9 from the salary, 5 from own savings, 20 from the mother, and the rest was repaid by the father-in-law. Thank you. Next question. About your wife acquiring a land plot in Satanivka, Khmelnytsky region. In the documents that you have provided, it is indicated that in August 2022, your wife became the owner of the land plot, 2,024 square meters, and the cost was 30,000 hryvnias. And so why that price? And as of that date, 30,000 hryvnias, was that the market price? Thank you, and that's a relevant question. When we were buying the land plot, we were looking for a proper offer for a certain period of time. It is 70 kilometers away from the city of Khmelnytsky, and this is a village that is kind of dying out. There are just several houses left. But it is picturesque, and the evaluated cost was 12.3 thousand, but since it was in a nice place, it is first line, so it is considered to be expensive, because in the second line, those land plots are sometimes just given away, because now, for example, IDP people have come and they just got those houses and land plots as gift, free of charge. I believe this price is objective. Okay, this is not close to a city. This is not a settlement where there are some important monuments or whatever. These are old houses. And I sent you the photos. I bought that territory. There was no house, but there was grass and trees, and then we tried to cultivate that land. that was not a land that could be used for agricultural purposes or some other purposes. Also, let me emphasize that the land was intended for agriculture, and further on we had to pay for revision of the type of use of that land, and that also affected the price. Okay, when you answered our questions, you indicated that building the house on that land plot, that you started it in 2021. Can you explain if you participated in preparatory construction work, and if so, how did you manage to combine your participation in building the house and the military duty?
Well, as I already mentioned in my written explanations, when me and my wife purchased this house, it's our joint property, also the title is my wife's name, so we purchased a land plot and we started to think what to build. Since it was a country house, we opted for the wooden materials. This house is rather inexpensive, it does not require interior finishing, we just had to paint it all together. It did not require any significant construction works, like when you build it with bricks, you need plastering, you need interior works. It did not require that. So back before the full-scale invasion, I had arrangement with a construction contractor with Shepetivka, who had a license to purchase food from forestries. He also had a permit for fabrication. I asked him if he had a sawmill, will I be responsible if someone got injured? He had a license. It took a few years for him because it takes time for wood to dry. When the full-scale invasion, I wasn't there, no one was doing anything. Then I finally received call from them that they were ready, and they arrived inside and they made the works. I wasn't there personally. When I returned home, I checked the work and went away. So they finished, and then up to 1 year, the house was empty just for wood to settle down and have proper shape. No windows, no doors. And after I resigned, the active works started. And please note, then when I served in the armed forces of Ukraine, I had some savings, and then we could start the full-scale construction. So you provide information that approximate value of this house with the area of almost 120 square meter is 400,000 hryvnia. So how did you estimate this cost, and don't you think it's underestimated? I believe it's even overestimated. When I purchased timber, it was not expensive. Back then there was no limitation to sell wood for the forestries. Moreover, the foreign exchange rate of United States dollar was much lower. So I paid in advance. I procured timber in advance. Then the timber was processed. I paid in installments. So once again, this house does not have anything that would require significant costs. It's a one-story timber cottage with no external decorations, just a painted wood on inside and on outside. I think maybe it's even a little bit overestimated. Unfortunately, I don't have documents, but you have seen photos. There are no golden columns, swimming pools. I don't even have a fence. Thank you, Petro Ivanovich. And now about sources of funds. According to your declarations, in the period from 2016 to 2019, you do not indicate or declare any cash savings. That would be in your property. At the same time, in your declaration for 2020, you declare 900,000 of savings. What was the source of the savings? Thank you so much for this question. I submitted my written explanations and declaration of a change of financial consideration. I received 630 or 680,000 hryvnias from the Ministry of Defense as a compensation for injury. These funds were paid for me after the meeting of the Ministry of Defense Commission, after verification, and I immediately declared them. I also noted that since 2019, I have never traveled abroad and have never had any expensive purchases, so I saved money. The salary wage of a judge is rather high, and the salary wage of the armed force serviceman is also rather high. So I had savings. I didn't spend money because there was COVID. We were confined to our home. Even stores were closed. I couldn't just spend this money. So in 2024, you purchased a Toyota Land Cruiser Prado, manufactured in 2023, and you have the same explanation, right? Savings, yes, exactly. Half was savings and half was a loan. I also declared this loan. I'm repaying this loan using my salary. It's interest-free. It's provided by the car retailer. Dear colleagues, since next questions relate to sensitive or limited action informations, I will kindly ask you to limit the live broadcast. Petro Ivanovich, we have a number of questions about your combination of a judicial career, your career as a judge, your military service, and your postgraduate studies. In the period from February 2022, you were a postgraduate student at Leonid Yushkov, Khmelnytsky University of Management and Law. And at the same time, you active judge of the district court with high case load, a person who served the country. I appreciate you as I appreciate the armed forces of Ukraine. How did you manage to combine it and successfully defend your PhD thesis in 2023? If it wasn't for the war, I would defend it much earlier. Actually, I highlighted that I was a professor at the university. I got excited about this topic and I already had some ideas and research developments. Significant ones. And in 2021, well, I had some leisure time, so I decided that I would go for my postgraduate training. Please pay attention that it was online course, so I didn't need to visit university. Everything happened online. Studies and exams because of COVID restrictions and lockdown. Caseload. Well, now 90% of my cases are a simplified written hearing. So I need to visit the court building only on Tuesdays, where I have my courtroom and I do court sessions. So basically, I hear all my cases on Tuesday. I have sufficient time. The caseload is significant, yes, it's approximately 1,400, 1,500 cases per year. I provided you a confirmation, a certificate from our HR department. So the caseload is high, but it's much easier than in general court because we save time on court hearings. Please pay attention that most cases are typical cases, social cases. During the last 6 years, I haven't missed a procedural time limitation for no case. Not a single time. Social and pension cases, which are supposed to be considered within 1 month, I do within 1 month. The rest of the cases happen, I heard, within 2 months. So you can have enough time to do everything. Moreover, my postgraduate training happened in online format. I was in line with my academic supervisor, with my academic advisor, who's a real professional in this area. I kindly asked him to become my academic advisor because I believe him one of the strongest family law lawyers and educators. And moreover, I have never faced him in at my court because he's a civil lawyer, and he was really helpful. Topic is very exciting. When I started to write a paper, I was really immersed into it. This topic is rather new. It's very high profile, very resonance, protection of family rights by a court. It's interesting and it's underexplored, under-researched. You asked me why I opted for a totally different area. Well, I offered a solution based on administrative proceedings for one of the problems I raised. It's part of my paper, so there is a space for research. However, it didn't take much time for me to research it. Maybe it may take significant time if topic very specific. You need to sit in library, but the topic is under-researched. It's easily to check databases online. All data are available. I experience no issues. I'm a military man. I'm a very disciplined man. I know how to time manage. Thank you, Petro Ivanovich. And we have another question. In the questionnaire of the candidate for the position of judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, to the question, have you been brought to administrative liability, you noted that in 2017 you violated traffic rules, namely Part 1 of Article 2022, which requires a stop sign. At the same time, in your judge's declaration of integrity, you indicated that you did not commit any actions that may result in bringing you to account on holding you accountable. Why there is a discretion? Thank you for your question. Let me explain. When this report was filed against me, I challenged it. It took a long time. I challenged it at the local district courts and the Court of Appeal, so I challenged it. According to the instruction, I consulted with the High Commission of Justice. They said that you need to indicate only those cases where you find guilty, and the decision is final and binding. The decision wasn't final and binding back then, so I didn't need to report it. So I was in a process of appealing against it. And only after a year or so, I shared documents, copy of the judgment or resolution with you. I don't remember correctly. So this resolution became binding only next year. You don't need to include it in your declaration last year. So I didn't declare it, but I don't hide it. I openly said in my questionnaire that I was held accountable, and I consulted with the High Qualification Commission of Judges. And another question related to what happened in 2020. You submitted to the High Council of Justice a notice of interference in your activities, in which you indicated intentional unlawful action of the court leadership. Please explain the circumstances due to which you appealed to the High Council of Justice, and what exactly was the pressure of the court leadership. Okay, let me explain it. In line with the law on the status of judges, judge supposed to have a separate office and with proper workplace conditions to work properly. In this case, the court leadership decided to put assistant in my office. I understood that in this case, the workplace environment will be inappropriate for me and him both. We had a high number of cases in general to heard in general hearing, and we didn't have a special room for consultation. Every time I came to my office, my assistants had to leave. I could spend between a few minutes or to a few hours or even a few days in this room. What does it mean? It means that my assistants need to sit in a hallway. So I claimed that it was a violation of procedure. It's a violation of secrecy. We had different opinions in this regard. They say it doesn't matter, he can handle it. But then we had a meeting. We discussed it. I received a separate office, and then I just withdraw my application. So that's it. Thank you, Petro Ivanovich. I had no other questions. Vasily Ivanovich, please.
You have repeatedly appealed to your service in the Special Operation Forces. Shall we stop the broadcast? Or, yes, let's stop the broadcast.
about your declaration of the traffic incident, the stop sign that you did not stop at, and you were then prosecuted for that or called to answer the offense. And you said that you weren't required to declare it while it was on appeal in any of the forms that you were obligated to fill out at that time because you had appealed it. Now, when did that rule come into effect that you did not need to, or you had the option of declaring it or not declaring it while it was on appeal?
That was under the guidelines of the High Qualification Commission, which was drafted on based on the requirements for the integrity declaration. So I just stopped next to that stop sign. I didn't see. I didn't see the sign which prohibited stopping. So it's not that police would chase me or whatever. So.
Saying that that was the case, but you're saying that the High Qualification Council had that protection for someone such as yourself that had been accused of this stop sign violation, that you did not have to declare it while it was on appeal, and that was in place in 2017.
Yes, there was such a provision. It was withdrawn in 2023, and in 2023, I believe that the Commission decided that in the declaration, any kind of protocol needs to be disclosed, no matter whether there is appeal or not. So since 2023, it's no longer in force. So there is a protocol, and that has not come into effect, and the regulation resolution that has come into effect. So both need to be disclosed since 2023. If I may, I would like to emphasize that basically I've had only 2 protocols drafted on me. First one, I didn't see that sign, and one case of speeding, exceeding the speed limit. So I usually drive properly, but that's a human factor. Colleagues, any other questions to the candidate? In this case, Petro, you are welcome for your final statement. Thank you for this opportunity to be present here at the interview. I don't know how it's going to develop further, but definitely it's a very positive experience, because when I was submitting the documents, I found out that my diploma had some errors there. That's important. Now I have the new diploma issued. There was this mistake. One figure was wrong. And also, I was quite surprised that you were asking me a lot of questions about my service in the army. And let me emphasize that now in the army, almost 100 judges are fighting. Some of them are already killed in action or injured in action. Of course, that's not very much noticeable in public domain because, of course, the Muscovites would like to capture or kill a judge. That would be a good trophy. So the judicial community is helping the Ukrainian army a lot. We do volunteer work. A lot of donations are made by judges. And there's discussions in the society that judges are not in the war or they are not helpful for the army. That's wrong. And I hope that judges will hear me. So, dear judges, let's stay united and we will prevail. So, again, I'm looking forward to further decisions. Thank you for hearing me and for inviting me. Thank you for your answers, dear colleagues. Here, the interview with the candidate for the position of the judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, Mr. Saliuk, is completed.